Welcome back to the Elsewhere podcast. And today we have Venus Libido with us. Hi, Venus.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So let's kick off. You can introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, because it was a bit of a
mouthful before,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I am a sex educator, qualified sex educator. I am a relationship and intimacy coach. And I'm also a training psychosexual therapist and relationships therapist.
Wow.
Yeah, so a lot on my plate at the moment.
You have, but how did you get into this career then?
I have always been sexually curious. I've always wanted to learn quite a lot at a young age. I explored my body from a very young age. But, you know, when I was younger, like I'm 32 this year, when I was younger, people weren't talking about sex like they are today. So I was kind of left to my own devices in terms of exploring my sexuality, my body. I'm pansexual, so I've always known I've been attracted to the opposite sex. And I was like, I don't know where to find the answers or who to talk to in a safe, comfortable environment. So, you know, I always had that interest when I was younger. And then as I kind of got older, it kind of got a little bit suppressed, I guess, through the education I had and being scared even more about sex and my body and being attracted to the opposite sex and not being taught that in school, that that's okay and that's normal. And then got into my late 20s and I was like, I'm so sick of feeling like this and feeling ashamed but I'm wanting to learn more. And I thought to myself, I'm going to make something. And I was already on social media and talking about my body in a way that was like through art, not directly about me. And I wanted to change that. So I pitched this idea to Womanizer, the sex tech company. I was like, I have an idea for a TV show that I want to make. Can you sponsor it? They said yes. And we're like, we trust you. Go ahead. Here's the money. Do it. So I basically made a TV show that was talking to people from all walks of life. And that was about sex, relationships, intimacy. Whether that was talking about the view from a trans experience, from someone who had suffered with and gone through vulva cancer, the queer experience. And I made a TV show. And then from that moment, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Wow.
I'm supposed to be talking about sex.
Where was the TV show shown?
You can watch it on YouTube.
Right.
It's called Private Parts.
Wow.
But yeah, I just loved it. I was like, my eyes were just like glowing and everyone was like, we can see this is what you're supposed to be doing. And it just kind of went from there. And then over the years, I'd be like, okay, now I know I want to be more one-to-one with people and help people one-to-one. I enjoy helping people, making them reconnect with their bodies. I don't want people to be in the position I was when I was like in my 20s. So that's why I'm now training to be a psychosexual therapist.
Okay, and how would you describe kind of your approach to counselling or therapy?
It's a big step to put yourself through therapy, to even acknowledge that you need that help and that support is a big step. But I think I've been in therapy for pretty much all my life, but now learning the kind of psychosexual side of things, it plays such a huge part into your overall health. So I think if you're somebody who's really curious about understanding your body, the way it works, not just your genitalia and your sex life, but your mind.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn and there's so much we need to learn in terms of educating ourselves, the science behind things. Like it's ever evolving and developing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it's fascinating.
Yeah. You were saying just before the podcast, you went down to the British Society
of Sexual Medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I've ever been to a conference. Actually a conference full stop, but I was really nervous about going because I know nothing about medicine. I come from like a kind of mindset point of view
absolutely.
and the body and not medical. And I was like, oh, am I going to be in the wrong place? And I turned up and it was stuff that we should have been learning. Like, so I wish somebody had taught me in my 20s about what to expect for menopause and perimenopause or the way your body changes, especially the way we think about sex as we get older.
Right.
And even things when it comes to like erectile dysfunction and the tablets and the medicine that's readily available to help people. It was an incredible day.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah. So how does your body change in terms of we talk about libido and sex all the time on this channel, on this platform, in Elsewhere in general. It's kind of like the whole way I marketed the business in the beginning, because our pill can help with libido. One of the biggest questions we get is, I'm on antidepressants, will this help my libido? Like, antidepressants absolutely kills off your libido. So I'm a bit like, well, sometimes I say, right, okay, we need to have a look at, what dosage you're on, etc. But it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes people feel like they need antidepressants, but obviously they still have desire for their partner, but then it just absolutely kills it off. Was there anything that was brought up at the British Medical Society surrounding that, or...?
Not around antidepressants, but I guess there's so many factors in someone's life that we don't think about, or we're taught to think about when it comes to like why that might be affecting our libido or our desire for sex. So when we talk about libido kind of stands for your desire for sex and like arousal.
Yeah.
So there's the need to want to have sex, and then there's like actually your body's ready to have sex. And so whether it's like psychological or physical, there's lots of different things that can impact your libido as you get older, as you progress through life, and that can be medication. Personally, I have been on antidepressants my whole life, and I have never actually noticed a difference myself, but that doesn't say somebody else, it doesn't affect somebody else differently. And it is frustrating because medication is one of the biggest, or can be one of the biggest significant impacts on our libido for anybody of any gender. And so I think when we think about changes as we're going through life, we need to understand that, yes, medication might be one of them, but it could be exercise, it could be your relationship with your body, it could be the amount of sleep you're having, how much alcohol and drugs, stress.
It's a big killer of libido.
Yeah, so we have to kind of look at when we see changes in our libido and our desire for sex, whether it's with yourself or with a partner, we need to kind of do like an overall MOT, I guess, on ourselves.
Yeah. So we get a lot of questions from women, just like, I just don't want to have sex with my partner. Like I always say, and sometimes the women will pour their heart out to me, and I'm probably not the best person to talk to because I haven't got the answers, you know what I mean? Not like you would have, and actually I might signpost them to you instead these days. I always say, libido is a ridiculously knotty subject, and it's not just like flicking on a switch. A woman's desire starts in her mind a lot of the time, and it changes as you get older. You are the most fertile when you're in your 20s, and it changes throughout the month as well with your cycle.
Oh god, yeah. And no, I only learnt that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was only because I was working for a company that talked about sexual wellness and their cycle. And I only learned, like, your cycle's all month long.
Yeah.
And nobody told me that at school.
No, you don't get taught at school, no. You can't get pregnant every single day of the month. You can't, you're more up for it 2 weeks before your period when your testosterone is the highest.
And the fact that your cervix moves as well, and that can cause discomfort and pain. And that's probably why at some points of the month you're like, why does it hurt more? Because you're like, everything's moving.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Like, we don't get taught these things.
No, there's not enough sex education. I went to an all-girls school and we had like really good sex education, but we didn't know anything like that. It was kind of still quite rudimentary. I don't know what I couldn't even tell you what sex education looks like these days in schools. I wouldn't have a clue. But it's getting better online. You've got an amazing platform where you talk about it really openly. But do you ever, I know we feel this with Meta and Instagram, we get banned and our account gets suspended lots of times.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's sometimes hard to get out your message?
Yeah, it's funny you should say that because, and I'm saying this to stand in solidarity with all the people that this is happening to at the moment. I'm a part of a beautiful WhatsApp group with loads of people from the kind of sexual wellness, sex education, sex worker background who all have platforms that are trying to educate and put out information that is either educational, supportive or informative. And we're all getting deleted, we're all getting censored, and it's getting worse and worse. And this week especially, loads of accounts have been taken down who either teach about gynae health or sex education, and it's really bad. And the rules around the guidelines in which they put in place are very then they don't make a lot of sense.
No, they don't. I mean, you should see some of the examples of stuff that I see online. Viagra seems to go completely.
Yeah.
Just everyone can talk about Viagra. If it was anything to do with erectile dysfunction, it seems to fly through. Anything to do with a woman's libido seems to get suspended. I noticed that Cindy Gallop was saying this morning that Make Love Not Porn is now been suspended.
Yeah. That was mentioned in my WhatsApp group today.
Yeah.
So it's so sad.
I think she'll get it back. You know, I think there's enough people lobbying for that. So,
but this is the other problem we're facing with Meta, is that we are challenging this censorship. We're challenging these accounts being taken down, and we're not being listened to. So we're appealing it, we're fighting it, and we're being ignored.
Yeah.
So there's a problem there. And I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but I don't really care. But I had a call with someone from Meta the other day because they were offering out phone calls to help with creators.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm having issues with shadow banning. Is it a thing? And they just fly past the question.
I know.
It's clearly a thing. The algorithms are working in a way where it's picking up certain words to remove it, to censor it, to take it down. It happens, and they're just being very vague with it.
Yeah, I know. And then some of the ads that I see, I have screenshots, I've got loads of examples. And then a documentary filmmaker got in touch with me. She didn't say what she was working on, but she said, can you send me the examples of what the ads you've got that have been banned? And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe this has been banned. You should see some of the stuff. Basically, we're talking about the symptoms of the menopause, in which one of them is vaginal dryness. That's all we said. So we put the symptoms of the menopause, the hot flushes, brain fog, this, listed them all, of which one of them is vaginal dryness, which is a legitimate thing, banned. And I was like, that is clearly an educational post. They won't let it fly. Yeah. And until I removed it and then had to put loads of spend behind it, loads of other posts to try and get the account working again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's frustrating.
Right. Yeah. Do you know what needs to happen? Netflix needs to pick it up and make a huge documentary, because I feel like
she is. I feel like that's who she was working for, because she didn't mention it, but she was like, it's an online streaming giant. So I was like, well, it's either Amazon or Netflix then.
Yeah.
Please take my content.
It needs to happen. I mean, it's great because this is the way that things like change happens now, is through shows on Netflix, because that's the biggest streaming thing, like you said. And I've noticed, like, every time something like a documentary comes up, change happens.
Yeah,
so I feel like that is, because within our group, our WhatsApp group, we're like, what can we do? Like we're so stuck on like, what is the next steps to that change has to happen. But yeah, I guess it's Netflix is the answer, maybe.
Hopefully. Or just stop letting robots do it all the time, making it so automated.
It's so out of control, isn't it?
It's ridiculous. And don't even get me started, but there you go. Okay, so going back to like some of the work that you do you work with couples, or is it one-to-one? Or what's the most important thing you think that couples should be discussing within their sex life?
That's a good question. So I tend to just work with people individually, but I am happy to work with couples in my coaching. But personally, I prefer to work with people individually, because I do think that the work starts with yourself.
Right.
And I think the thing that couples struggle with is that communication.
Yeah.
And like honest, open, like no strings attached, like no shame attached conversations. And I guess you have to kind of create that safe environment for each other, and always having these conversations outside of the bedroom.
Really?
Yeah, there's something I kind of tell people is, if you're going to have conversations that you know might lead to discomfort or like an argument, have them out of the bedroom, because that bedroom needs to be your sacred space where sex is happening. It's a sensual area where you go to and you feel like you can connect in a way that there's not that toxic energy in the room. But I guess communication is the number one thing. And I mean, everybody knows that, but do we really practice it?
Yeah.
And it's the how do we practice it, I guess. It's like, I am talking to my partner, but they're not listening. Yeah.
Do you think TV should be in the bedroom?
I would say yes, purely for watching porn.
Right, okay, but not for like sitting there. So I read some studies. I can't remember, it was a book now, actually. The book title is failing. I can't remember which book it was. It was either called What She Really Wants or Sex Drive. Can't remember, either one of those two. Basically in it, they said that because couples are watching like binge marathons on Netflix, the bedroom has now become the least sexiest space because you do too much in bed. You know, if you've got a hangover, you sit there and eat in bed and watch Netflix all day in bed. And now you're associating with bed with anything but sexual things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that does, I guess you can see how that kind of happens. But I also think we're just thinking maybe into it too much because, I mean, I have a TV in my bedroom and me and my partner love to binge series together. It's a part of our like
intimacy.
Intimacy is doing that together. But I mean, primarily I always have a TV in the room just so we can watch porn together. Like, but yeah, electronics in general, like no, like phones, laptops, that stays out the room.
Yeah. I do believe they kill relationships. People are sat in bed on their phone, not looking at each other. Yeah. I'm turning that way on my phone. My partner's turning the other way on his phone. Yeah. The TV is on. Neither of us are watching it. Yeah. You know, and you can see how it happens. At the moment, we've got a bit. I always bring the baby in bed with me, so she's the biggest passion killer. God bless her, but she sleeps so good next to me. So I'd rather get the sleep in actually at the moment. But that is one of the ways in which sexual relationships completely change. You have a new baby come into the relationship. How does that affect the relationship? Yeah,
I mean, well, going back to the question about libido and you having people come to you all the time saying like my libido's changed. When we think about desire, the wonderful Emily Nagoski, she kind of explains it really lovely in that you have responsive desire and spontaneous desire and contextual desire, and it shows up differently for everybody. So spontaneous is what you can imagine. It shows up spontaneously like you see in films, but that's not everybody's reality.
Well, it's hardly anybody's reality.
Right? Yeah. And if it happens, it's because, I don't know, your partner's done something magical for you. And it's like, wow, okay. That's spontaneous desire. And then responsive is something sexy has to happen for you to be aroused or turned on, which is most people's reality. And then we've got contextual, which means everything has to be right. The environment, what you can smell, what you're wearing, all of those sorts of things.
Like you're geared up for it. Tonight at 6 o'clock, we're going to have sex and I'm going to put nice lingerie on. I'm going to make a meal. I'm going to do this. I'm going to make an effort to do it.
Yeah,
kind of, right, okay.
So you kind of have to look at it in that way. And I think it's like that's something we just don't know about. So it's like, why am I not wanting sex anymore? Well, think about your environment. Think about what you've done in the day that might have triggered you not to be aroused this evening, whether that is children, whether that is something stressful at work, whether that you haven't exercised and you're not feeling good and all those endorphins aren't there, whether that's, I don't know, like you've drunk too much or you haven't drunk enough water. You know, all of those things need to be in place. I think it's just little lifestyle changes and you'll start to notice a difference. But I mean, we have to remember that libido, desire, arousal, there's so much more to it than being like, if I just click my fingers, it's going to happen. It doesn't work like that.
No. And a woman, correct me if I'm wrong, needs a bit more warming up than a man.
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we need we need that kind of that rush, don't we? We need it to, it kind of happens from top down. So we kind of need that, something to happen mentally for us to then physically feel aroused.
Yes.
I would say we do need it more.
Warming up a bit more than a man, yeah, definitely. So what are your best tips for a woman or a man overcoming kind of like confidence, maybe if they're not confident in the bedroom or they've got some kind of like sexual anxiety or something like that?
That's a very complex question, I think, because if somebody has performance anxiety, it could be because of lots of different things, whether that's pain, whether that's body image, whether that's fear of like not doing something right, or that knowing your partner's not touching you in the right way and you're not actually enjoying yourself. So if we go through the pain aspect, you know, over 50% of those with vulvas have painful sex. Yeah. And we're not talking about that. And then even more, like, I think it's like 58% of people with vulvas and vaginas aren't telling their partners or openly talking about the fact that it's painful for them. Yeah. So that's such a huge amount of the population who are having painful sex, not talking about it. No wonder there's performance anxiety there to start with, right?
Give me a list of reasons of why it might be painful.
It could be firstly go speak to your GP and have it checked out, because it could be something like endometriosis or PCOS. It could be vaginismus. It could be other, painful, something else like dyspareunia, like needs to be looked at by your doctor. But I guess from personal experience with me, I struggled with painful sex from a very young age. Later, in my late 20s, found out it was because of endometriosis.
Right.
So, I mean, painful sex could be multiple things. But if it is something like vaginismus, those things can, there are ways to help with that.
Yeah.
Like using tools. There's lots of tools to help, like dilators, like medical dilators, seeing a sex therapist. I mean, therapy, if you are struggling with painful sex after realizing it's not a medical condition, is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself if you can afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, is it often overlooked? I mean, there's two ways of looking at this. Is sex just like spoken of too much? Is there too much onus on it in a relationship? Or actually, is it fundamentally the number one thing that people should be focusing on in a relationship?
No, it's definitely not. I think sex should be, it's very dependent on the individual and the couple, right? It depends how important sex is to you and your relationship and as part of your overall well-being.
Yeah.
For some people, not interested in sex, it doesn't need to be a part of my like daily routine, weekly routine, monthly, even yearly routine. For some people, it's just not. And especially for people who are asexual. So I think it depends on the individual, but I think you have to narrow down like everything else that comes before sex, right?
Yeah.
The
like
pre-sex.
companionship and,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got ranges of friends and I've got one who is like a nymphomaniac. She really is in the nicest possible way and she won't mind me saying it. She'd laugh her head off. But sex is a huge part of her relationship. It's like the whole thing that relationship is hinged on.
Yeah.
Like if that was gone, like the
and
relationship.
how is her partner in response to that? Is he the same?
He is the same, and they're very exploratory. They are very adventurous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's something else to talk about is that people don't know that we have this thing called desire discrepancy where your libido might be higher than your partner's, and it's very rarely you're going to meet somebody with the same levels of desire for sex as you. Very rare. And if you do, amazing.
I think hers is definitely higher than his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that's fine as long as you talk about it with your partner. Say, look, I have a very high libido. I'm really wanting to have sex with you right now. How are you feeling about that? And if they're like, no, I'm not feeling okay, well then let's have a compromise. Can I go away and masturbate by myself? Or are you okay to watch me masturbate? There's so the thing is with sex and desire discrepancy, and the reason why relationships tend to break down because of sex is because somebody needs more or less than the other, right? And it's about finding a balance. That starts with communication. Again, we need to talk about, okay, I need it more than you, but what can we do to make sure I'm still fulfilled when you don't need to be?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Because I look at some couples and it's just really not on their radar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've got really great companionship. And also, you start off life, probably at it all the time. But then especially in the first parts of a relationship, and then it does taper off. Life gets in the way, becomes less important, and actually you fall into more emotional intimacy, friendship, loyalty, trust. Like it's not the be all and end all, is it?
Yeah.
And especially with older couples, I don't know if you find this, but it becomes less and less important because it's just not.
Well, you say this.
Okay.
I did learn something when I went to this conference that it kind of does a kind of full circle, and we think, we're very horny when we're younger and in our 20s, and then we get to a point where like we're thinking about our career and our children and our families and paying the bills and all of those things obviously get in the way of sex and the want and need for sex because we're prioritizing other parts of our life, and stress comes into it and children. But then as you get older and all those kind of responsibilities start to fade away and slow down, sex drive comes back up again. So
even through the menopause and things like that?
Yeah. I mean, so something I learned the other day was that STIs are higher in care homes than anywhere else because they're so random. Like they're all having sex. Yeah.
Wow. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, great.
Yeah.
Great.
So we've got something to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe because life gets in the way, stress gets in the way. So if we had like less to do you reckon we'd just all be like lying around having sex all day?
I mean, if that's what you wanted to prioritize, yes, I would definitely. I mean, my dream, if I ever won the lottery, would just to be to buy a boat and just have sex on the boat all day long, because that's all I would have to do. Like, just eat good food, drink wine, and sex. Right? It's a perfect life.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I think that's my partner's dream. He keeps saying, when are you going to buy me this boat? Like, I need to sell him a few more golden pills, mate. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I can see that. And I'm glad couples when they get older are like that. I do.
Yeah.
I'm buzzing for them because, well, they haven't got much else to do. So if they sat around in care homes, I'm glad they're having a good time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so are there any particular techniques that you can think would be helpful in like helping intimacy between partners?
Any tools?
Well, I don't know really. So tools, or like you mentioned, like products that you like to talk about and things like that. So let's delve into that.
Okay, so something I love in my life and the job that I do is I test a lot of products. I'm really into sex tech and finding things, and I think there's so many things on the market that can really enhance a couple's relationship and their sex lives, whether that be, I'm not just talking like sex toys, but I'm talking about products that do help with pain.
Yeah.
One of my favorite products are the O-nuts, and they're like these squishy rings that you can put on a penis, and then it helps with the depth of penetration for those who are struggling with painful sex. There's lots of serums to help with vaginal dryness and like stimulation of the clitoris.
Yeah.
Like all of these things I think are great tools to invest in. And yeah, I think that's yeah.
Okay.
I've kind of lost my train of thought there, sorry.
So would you recommend that most couples buy a few tools to help them in the bedroom?
If it's got a bit stale, I think why not? They're great investments. They're going to last you a lifetime, and it's a little bit of fun and exploration. I'm a big believer in like when things start to go a bit dry, okay, let's start exploring something. What do you want to try?
Yeah.
Even if it is like kinks or fetishes or going to sex parties, whatever it might be, like I'm a big advocate for all of that stuff.
Have you been to a sex party?
I have.
And what are they like? I can't say I have. Never have. And actually it really scare me.
I really enjoyed myself. So it's something I've always wanted to do. And I talk quite openly online about this, but I have like a water kink. So I'm really like aroused by water and being in water, sex in water. I think that sort of stuff like is really interesting. So my first sex party, I wanted to be about water.
Right.
And this company was doing one. I was like, hey, we have to go. So we went in London. And it was the most interesting experience, mainly for people watching and analysing people and their relationships. Yeah. It's the one thing I did notice is quite performative.
Is it all heterosexual couples?
At this particular one, yes, because it was for heterosexual couples that wanted to go to that particular party. But it was.
And was it like invite only, where you've got to like send a picture of yourself and you make sure they're all good looking people who are there?
You kind of sign up to like a membership,
right? And
it's for women or vulva and vagina owners, and then you can bring a +1, so penis owners can't just come by themselves. So yeah, it was interesting, but I would say it was very performative. And the only thing I would say is it really did start to smell because it was in like a pool sauna environment. So I would recommend it's not the sexiest of parties I could have picked.
Right, okay. Because I've got another friend who goes to this place in Paris.
Oh, okay.
Like very exclusive. Again, terrifies the fucking... I don't mind saying that I am very quite vanilla.
Mm. Yeah, vanilla's good. Vanilla's good.
I just like what I like. I'm a real simple person. And I like one partner and that's that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she tells me all these wild stories from Paris and I'm just like I try and live my life like vicariously through her. Do you know what I mean? So
I think all my friends do that with me.
Yeah, so I like listening to this stuff. But she's been to a few sex parties in London and then she's been to these ones in Paris. She was like, the ones in London I didn't like. The lighting was not good. I could literally see people's spots all over their body. I'm not into that. Do you know what I mean? She was like, she's very into like the aesthetics.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
But that's part of like...
So maybe you'll like this place in Paris.
Yeah, but that is part of like the kind of contextual side of your desire. Like for me, everything has to be perfect. And that is like everything looking right. If I see something that looks messy over there, I'm turned off straight away. I'm like, no, sorry, babe, I need to go tidy that first, then we can have sex.
Okay, so when you're watching porn, are you like looking for like nice settings when you're watching it? It can't just be like some ropey old room.
No, oh no, just turn off straight away, yeah. But yeah, sex parties are interesting. And I think for anybody that, I mean...
And are people drunk? Do they get drunk there?
Yeah, you can drink, yeah. I mean, it is quite interesting towards the end of the evening, seeing what happens. But I would say like sex parties, I think when people think of sex parties, it means, oh, my partner's going to go off and have sex with other people. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case. That wasn't the case for me and my partner. We're not at that stage on our relationship where I felt comfortable or he felt comfortable for us to do that. We purely went for the experience and to watch and a bit of voyeurism and that kind of like kinky side of that. But yeah, a sex party is a fun experience if you're interested in like, I guess, something different outside of the bedroom. But it's definitely got to be something you both want to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. I don't even know how you broach that subject. Like, I've been thinking about it and I think we should go and do this. But I think you kind of know the kind of person you're getting into.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for me, but like I said, I've got a few friends that get up to these things and love listening to it. And I'm glad they found partners where they can explore that kind of side of life too, if that's what makes them happy, you know, whatever floats your boat.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about tools and things like that. So we obviously have a natural product, Elsera, and that can really help with libido. Is there anything else you can think of like naturally that could like help people's desire or arousal? Like if you get a client that came to you, you know, what would your advice be to say like, my desire's gone, my arousal's gone? Because we get this a lot in our inbox. What would be like I don't know if you've got a set protocol, and obviously it's quite individual, but what would be your kind of like advice?
So the kind of go-to advice would be, are you masturbating?
Yeah.
Are you exploring your body by yourself? Do you know what you even like?
Yeah.
So that's like number one. That's number one priority. It's like, are you touching yourself? Are you exploring your body? Are you really being honest with yourself about your body? Are you looking at your body all the time? That's number one. I guess the next is like looking at, I guess, what we were talking about, every aspect of your life and kind of MOTing it. Are you drinking enough water? Are you eating the right foods? Are you exercising enough? What kind of medication are you taking? And do you need to go review that with your doctor?
Yeah.
And then the next thing is, if those things are like kind of helping, but they're kind of also not at the same time, you're still struggling, I think sex therapy is a great tool. Pelvic floor exercises. I think those are kind of my top tips for just an overall, I guess it's very subjective and very complex depending on the individual and what we would need to look at. But this is the number one, go back to the roots of yourself and start exploring your body again. Because, you know, what you might have liked 10 years ago, you might not like it now. And we forget about erogenous zones and other parts of our body that feel good. And, you know, sex doesn't have to be penis and vagina. It doesn't have to be penetration. And if you're worried about that, and that's kind of what's stopping you wanting to have sex, is the fear of penis and vagina sex or penetration in any form, then start exploring other ways to experiment pleasure and take the pressure off of, I need to have sex, I need to have an orgasm, and think about what is pleasurable for me, what do I like, what feels good. That's what I tell people, like stop thinking about the end goal as like the orgasm and think of the end goal as pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that kind of in a roundabout way. I'm quite beat around the bush with my customers. Just because, like, you know, I just feel like I haven't got the language sometimes to say, but I'm like, how much me time are you having with yourself?
Yeah,
you know
it is though, yeah. Yeah.
Because that can help when they come to me and they're saying, you know, I don't know what to do. I just don't want to have sex with my partner and it's not his fault and I really love him.
Yeah.
And again, I haven't really got that tools to say things, but I'm like, listen, your libido it's not just flicking a switch. It starts in your head. For me personally, I feel better when I'm looking better. So when I go to the gym, when I know, so after I'd had a baby and obviously I still had quite a lot of baby weight on me and stuff like that, and I was I mean, your hormone levels completely change when you've had a baby to protect yourself because you need to heal.
Yeah.
So your progesterone will go through the roof and that really kills your libido too.
Yeah.
So testosterone has to be high for you to really want to have sex, or like, that spontaneous sex anyway. It's interesting because when a new dad is around, mother and baby as well, his testosterone lowers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all works in harmony together because, you need chance to heal. So anyway, I'm getting off the point. So you don't really want to have sex after just having a baby and things like that. But then once I started getting back in the gym and I started feeling better and I started losing a bit of weight and I could start seeing like my abs coming back and I started being, I just like the way I look again. And then, I'd have a bit of a suntan or whatever. And I was thinking, feeling myself now. And then I start perking up a bit, start wearing nicer underwear, start making a bit more of an effort and things like that. And I'm always like, it's got to start with actually you sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my best advice anyway. And that I can only talk from personal experience. But 100%, I think when you feel confident and flirtier, it just radiates out of you more as well.
Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you. And people used to say that to me, I was like, that's not working for me. And then I was in a 9-year relationship and we barely had sex in the last 2 years of a relationship. And I was like, something's wrong with me. I'm broken. Why do I not want to have sex anymore? And then when we broke up, I spent a year feeling really low. And I was like, I need to start focusing on me and my self-confidence and like just like being attuned with myself and my body and thinking about pleasure by myself, because I am alone now and I want to be alone. But I'm still, like I said at the beginning, I'm so connected to my sexuality and that side of my life. It's a big part of it for me. So I had to learn how to like do that by myself in my bedroom. And then once I was able to like accomplish that, well, not accomplish it, so it's a journey, lifelong journey. But once I started to listen to that side of my body and that side of myself of it starts with me, the relationships I've now had going forward have been incredible. And the sex has been incredible because I know what I want, I know what I like, and I know what I need to have a better overall sexual experience, whether that's with myself or somebody else.
What if it's then your partner? What if you are like desperate to have sex and everything like that, but your partner's just like let himself go? Well, I'm just saying him, but whatever, whoever your partner is. But what if they just let themselves go and they're just not taking any interest in you anymore, or just they're not even interested in themselves? I mean, but how do you bring it back? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question to ask, and it's a very common question I get asked. And I think, again, it comes back to having a conversation with that person and asking, like, what's going on in your life? Because I guess we put a lot of blame on ourselves and we think I'm the problem. They don't love me anymore.
Or they don't fancy me anymore.
They don't fancy me. And then it kind of is a vicious circle, right? So I think it's sitting them down and having that, it all comes back to being like, having a space where you do it that's non-judgmental, there's no shame, and making that really clear when you have that conversation, being like, why are we not having sex anymore? What's going on in your life? What can we do to fix this?
Yeah.
Are you willing to fix this with me?
Yeah.
Are they willing? Are they willing to do it? And if so, I mean, it's asking those questions because it could be work related. It could be, they could be taking drugs, they could be having overconsumption of alcohol, they could be stressful things happening at work that you're not aware of that could be impacting their desire and their libido. So it all comes back to communication and, again, their bodily MOT that they need to do for themselves. And then just starting from scratch. And I mean, I know I said before, but sex therapy can be a great tool for couples.
And what would sex therapy entail? Actually, I watched this program. I haven't finished it yet. It's on Netflix, I think. And it's about a couple. Is it called Wanderlust?
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, okay. Where they both want to go and have sex with other people and they have a sit-down conversation about it. And then they go out and have sex with other people and come back and tell each other about it. But she is a therapist. Yeah. So I was kind of like, I've watched a couple of episodes of that and I was thinking, okay, is that how therapy works? But So if any of our customers are listening to this, want to go into sex therapy or wanted to contact you, do you do sex therapy?
Not yet.
Right.
I'm
okay.
still training.
So you're still training.
So maybe I can't give advice on that
Okay.
yet. But coaching, I mean, coaching's different because that's asking questions and getting to like
What? Yeah. So what is the difference between sex therapy and coaching?
a good question. I'll see if I can try and answer this. So sex therapy is kind of looking at like the psychosexual side of things, what might be in the way, what might
So if they had
be from
like
the past.
like past trauma that could now be that they're still holding on to and working through that to kind of unlock.
Yeah, and identifying if there's anything physically wrong as well to start with, and whether that needs to be addressed before coming to see a therapist. And with coaching, it's more knowing, kind of helping with somebody when they already have the tools and just letting them know that they have those tools there already and guiding them.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of work more in a mentor sense because I know the tools and the techniques that somebody can use, but it's more about asking a lot of questions and guiding people in the right direction themselves rather than me giving them the answers.
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, you posing the right question so that they can like sit there, think about it, reflect and like figure it out for themselves and realize and come to a bit of realization themselves. That's kind of coaching. Yeah, I get that. Okay, so is there anything else you can think of which would be like dynamite advice that no one's really talking about that you put out on your platform all the time that seems to get like good engagement or responses?
I'll go about this in two ways. There's something I learned recently, which I love learning, and I always think there's more to be learned. And something I learned the other day was if you've tried everything and you're not really sure like why you don't feel desire, you're not wanting sex, go and get your hormone levels tested. I mean, it's something I've never even thought to do because my levels have always been I'm always wanting sex, but still something you should go and get tested.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, growing up in education, nobody said that you can have a hormonal imbalance. And it really teaches you things and that you can actually go get these things checked out.
Yeah.
But I think the one thing that comes up on my platform and the questions I get asked a lot is about sex toys and like what ones they should be buying, or, I have endometriosis and sex is so painful for me. What can I do? Because I want to have sex with my partner and I'm pushing them away.
Well, that is a big question. Yeah. So we have lots of customers who've got endometriosis. You have endometriosis yourself. So I feel like you're like great to talk about this. So what would you suggest if somebody is in that situation?
So with endometriosis and painful sex, my number one thing is like finding the right tools, talking to your partner about when is the right time to have sex and when it does hurt. Tracking.
Is that kind of like in the monthly cycle then?
Yeah. So like saying like tracking, like track for a month and then track for another month and then see if you notice patterns. Okay, so at this time of the month I know it's going to really hurt, so we can't really have sex then.
Okay.
And planning sex is sexy. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't plan sex because then I know it's coming and that's not cool. Like he's not going to like that. Planning sex is sexy. And so, so finding tools, talking to your partner, keeping a diary of triggers and tracking, and remembering that sex doesn't have to be penetration if it is hurting. Like there are other ways of having pleasure, like oral sex or using tools that are outside of the body or just touching, whatever it might be, just kind of taking that pressure of like what's expected and do what's right for you. But my number one tools for like painful sex are like the O-nuts. Like I said, those are a great thing. A sex pillow for positions. I think the biggest thing, especially throughout your cycle as your cervix is moving around and changing, is to find positions that work for you. Like, and that's fun to explore with your partner.
Yeah.
Using like air technology toys, I think are a great tool for
what
outside.
Air technology toys?
So like the toys that like kind of like the womanizers or the Lalo toys that kind of push out air. Well, it's hard to describe what they do. They said they're air technology toys, but they kind of suck and blow air at the same time.
I think I've seen it. Hang on,
you must have seen these.
I have a Lilo toy. It doesn't suck any air though.
No, the Lilo Sealer is my best friend. So.
Okay, hang on. I think I do know what you're talking about. It's got like an end on it. I think
it's like a little mouth.
Yes, I have seen that. Yeah,
those toys are great.
I've got one that's called like the Bird.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's it. That's one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know what you're
Bird
talking
Company
about.
are good.
Yeah.
So I think toys that can go outside of the body and just remembering like when you do invest in these toys, you can use them all over your body. You can use them on your partner. You can use them on a penis owner. That they're not just for people with vulvas. Like, it feels good on the end of a penis. It feels really nice on your nipples. It feels great on the balls. Like, you try wherever you want to put it, as long as it says like for the outside of the body, keep it on the outside. But yeah, I think tools are your best friend when it comes to painful sex.
And also, one thing we haven't actually touched on is like orgasms. Like for women, they're not that easy.
Yeah.
Like not that easy at all.
Yeah.
And actually, they don't really come from penetrative sex.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the time.
Well, it's like, what, 90% of us or even more that don't come from
it comes from like
penetrative sex?
clitoral stimulation,
Yeah.
but yet nobody really focuses. Well, maybe it's getting better. Maybe the education is getting better.
I
there.
actually think it has. I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, I think it only takes a couple of girlfriends to say, what the fuck are you doing to some guy, and then they'll learn.
Yeah.
But I was having this conversation with one of my male friends and my partner the other day, and he was like, you know when you like back in the day when you were like first like starting getting at it with a girl, he was like, how bad were you? Like he's like, some of the times I've given girls, they must have had a terrible time. Like they've probably been watching porn, they've probably been going at it like a jackhammer or something like that. It's absolutely terrible for the female. But actually, when you're younger, you don't really know the difference between sensual sex and just lying back and taking something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But this goes back to communication and being like, by the way, I cannot orgasm from penetrative sex.
Yeah.
And being like, are you okay if we use a toy while we're having sex, or can you orgasm from penetration and then I use a toy so then I can have an orgasm?
Yeah.
And would you like to use it on me, or would you like to watch me use it on myself? It's just having these conversations and being confident and owning it, because ultimately at the end of the day, the only person who's responsible for your pleasure is yourself. So if you're not going to talk about it with somebody that you're having sex with, they're not a mind reader. So you're the only one missing out here.
I'm quite liberal and I don't think I'd have a conversation. Or I can be like, I don't know, I'm just not very like tactful.
Yeah, okay.
If I was to bring anything up, I'd be like a bull in a china shop, be like, what are you doing? I'd probably put off somebody by calling something out, I don't know. But
that's the fear of, like, we're worried about the judgment of others, but ultimately we're all there to have a good time, and you deserve to have a good time just as much as they do. So you're the one missing out if you don't bring it up.
What do you think? I mean, a lot of youngsters, they learn everything from porn because they don't want to ask. They can't really go anywhere to look. And what do you think of porn and the way it's portrayed and what the most popular things are? Because their algorithm, there's loads of free websites now you can go and watch free porn.
Yeah.
And the algorithm of the stuff that it shows you, you know, is not what a woman would want. Or not, you know, and then if you're the girlfriend of somebody and you're like a young couple, you'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But then you might not know any better because that's how sex, you've only ever seen that.
Yeah. I mean, porn is not realistic. It's made up. So we need to remember that it's not reality. It's almost like a mini movie, and like you would watch a film, and the way that we watch women have sex and orgasm from penetration is like, well, I grew up thinking, why is that not happening to me? Like, she's having sex with this guy and orgasming, and that's not happening to me when I have sex. So we have to remind people that porn is like fantasy and it's not real. It's not real. But we are very fortunate now that we have ethical porn, which is more realistic and it's more inclusive and it's more diverse and it is tailored to the real life experience of what sex is really like. But unfortunately, with the censorship we have online, we can't really talk about ethical porn.
What is ethical porn?
It's porn that is realistic.
Yeah.
The people involved are treated equally, fairly, and being paid the
like
right
real
amount.
couples sometimes.
It's safer environments. Basically, you can watch it and know that you can feel good about watching it because everything about it is right and done right.
Right.
And, you know, most of what we watch on Pornhub is stolen porn.
Right.
And not realistic, whereas ethical porn is more realistic.
Right, okay.
With real bodies, with real people that look like us.
What do you think about people who say it's no good because it's just instant gratification and nothing that's instant gratification should be?
No, I think sex is whatever you want it to be, and whether you want instant gratification, that's fine. But also, porn can be such a great tool for learning when it comes to ethical porn. I mean, me and my partner have watched porn and be like, I didn't know you could do that with your body. Let's try that together. It's a good way to explore with each other and try new things. And it's, it's a great tool for those who do struggle with arousal and potentially like things like ED or whatever it might be. I think it can be a good tool. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, I think that seems like a natural, lovely
Talking about porn.
Yeah, a lovely place to finish. Well, thank you so much, Venus, for coming in and chatting to us. I learned a lot today. And if anybody wants to get in contact with you, because I would imagine they're not going to want to shout about it with me anymore. I think they're going to go contact you directly. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, if you'd love to come have some coaching, whether it's to do with sex or intimacy or your relationship, just come find me at Venus Libido on Instagram, or venuslibido.com is my website if you want to reach out about coaching.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.